It does harken back to my childhood of why I love ghost stories anyways, because I was, the world's biggest chicken,
Yeah.
and still am. And so, I'm drawn to them. So even though I haven't had, my own ghost experience, I like live vicariously through anyone who's had anything remotely to it.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for it. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do we love
We love ghost stories.
and what do we have?
We have people with ghost stories.
So what are we going to do?
We're going to listen to those ghost stories.
Let's get spooky.
Let's get spooky.
I'm excited, guys. I got two stories for you, and the first one happened. So super, quick context is so I'm living a childhood dream right now. So I'm on staff with the U.S. men's national soccer team, and so
Awesome.
I'm on the coaching staff right now, which is great. So we just came out of a 23-day camp, a January camp with the national team, and like it's the sports world right now, so we were able to create a bubble, which means like every single meal. So 23 days, 3 meals a day. Every single meal, I was at the same seat with the same three guys at my table for 23 days. So you get to know each other really, really well.
Sure.
And part of my job was coming up with like table discussion questions every couple of days. And one was basically, because again, I got to manipulate it, was like, is there an experience in your life where you experience something crazy or inexplainable? And we had this guy at our table. I don't want to give away his name. I want to protect his anonymity, but he's not American and he's on staff. And so he shared that this probably would have been about I don't know, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. He was finishing up. So again, he's not from the U.S., but he was finishing up getting his degree at Texas Christian University, TCU, in Fort Worth, Texas. Side note: my wife is from Fort Worth, Texas. Was enrolled to go to TCU, but pulled out at the last minute and went to the college that I went to. And voila, here we are.
The rest
It
is
was, it was
history.
meant to be. Isn't that a nice? Wasn't that a nice sidebar to the story? Anyway,
That's
so
That's
it.
he's finishing up his degree at TCU. It's only a couple of weeks left in school, and I think he's still living in the dorm. And so he tells us that, so he wakes up in the middle of the night, and he thinks he's having, like, what is it, like sleep paralysis where you can't move,
Yep.
right? So he's like pinned down in his bed, and he can't move. He can't move his arms, he can't move his shoulders. And happening above him, like on the ceiling, but like live above him, is the best way he described it. It was cowboys, it was Native Americans, it was indigenous people, it was like wagons, horses. It was like this like western scary scene was going on above him, like over him, and it was loud and it was like
wow.
crazy and just nuts. And he couldn't move. And so this went on for a while, and then it finally stopped. He went back to sleep. He woke up in the morning, right? Like convinced it was a dream.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. And so he's talking to a few like friends on his hall or whatever. And this one guy goes, "What? Like what happened to you last night?" And he goes, "The same thing happened to me." So this guy down the hall had the exact same experience. Woke up, couldn't move, and like everything, the details of the story, same thing happened to this guy, right? So now two of them happened to him on the same night. And he told
Wow.
us that that happened to him like every night for like the next 3 or 4 nights.
Wow.
So this happened every night. Here's the kicker. So the last night that it happened,
There's a
it,
kicker.
there's a
There's
kicker to
already
it,
been a kicker.
right? Yes, yes, right. So this kicker number two. So he, it's happening, and like while it's happening, he hears like this big like snap, like a big like not explosion, but like a loud like snap, and he doesn't know what it's in reference to. Again, because there's like crazy horses, it's nuts, right? It's going over him. And so he falls asleep, wakes up in the morning, he goes out and he looks out of his window. And out of his window, it kind of like went down a little bit of a hill. And at the bottom of the hill was a giant tree, and a huge branch had snapped off and was laying there.
God.
So, so,
Wow.
and so we're like, what happened next? Right? What happened next? And he said, he literally, it was like one of the last weeks of school, and he was offered a job in Kansas City and like left and has never been has never been back. And so
Sure.
it's so funny. So like I'm asking my wife, I'm like, hey, what's up with Fort Worth? You know, what's the deal there? And she's like, well, obviously it's Texas, and so you have, you know, so much history there. Like it's, you know, Fort Worth is, it's the stockyards. It was the epicenter of like cattle ranching and the cattle, what do you call them, where they would basically like move the cattle, you know, it
Oh,
was like the
okay.
highway of moving cattle.
Yeah.
And but clearly also too, there was, you know, so many different you know, Native American Indian tribes there, and different things like that, and indigenous people. um and so I tried to do a little bit of research. Like there is a ton of hauntings going on in Fort Worth. Some of them related to, obviously, going back as far as like slavery, back to um, all the historical things that happened in Texas, but as well as just some crazy, you know, mansion hauntings and different things like that. So I tried to find anything specific to TCU, but I kind of came up dry on that front.
That's wild,
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
my first question is, did they get a ceiling TV installed and they were watching a Cowboys and Indian movie together?
Just
Possible.
watching The Searchers, but they
Possible.
like, I
Right.
gotta
Right. While
put that on.
someone held the sheets really tight so that
Yeah.
Yeah.
they couldn't,
But no,
they
for
couldn't
real,
move.
we were
Yeah.
just talking about, like, ghost stories are funny, or they're interesting when one person tells a ghost story. And when one person tells a ghost story, you're like, ooh, that's really interesting. But in the back of your mind, you're like, there's a lot of explanation
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
When two people tell it, when you're getting multiple angles on the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
story, it becomes really interesting to me. I'm just like, I want to talk to those people so badly, because the chances of that coincidence happening, or that story being told from two different angles, it is so,
Yeah.
I mean, it would have to be so random,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and they have
yeah,
no reason to
the odds
lie
of that.
about it.
Right. Why
Like,
would you? Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
there's
You'd
no.
go out of your way not to admit something like that. That's not a thing that you'd be like, and me too. Like that's
Well, it's funny. I sent him an email saying, "Hey, some friends of mine, they love ghost." I didn't give him the full. I said, "Hey, they love ghost stories. Like, hey." So I wanted to clarify. I'm like, "Was this were you back in your home country? This was you at school, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I was at school." And he just kind of gave me some quick, you know, like made sure I had the details right. And he ended it with, "I'm getting chills as I write this." Like it's still very,
wow.
it's, you know,
Yeah, it's
still
raw.
very real for him. Yeah,
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 he's not making it up. It's
no,
Ugh.
regardless of what his mind is doing in that moment.
yeah,
He really saw that,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
really happened to him physically. That's
God,
that's what's wild to me. I'm just like that. People don't make that stuff up.
that's scary.
no,
Spooky
no.
scary.
Spooky, scary.
Spooky, scary. Sorry, that's story number one.
Okay. Okay.
All right,
Love it.
you guys ready for number two?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all
Number
right.
two.
There's a theme here. Clearly, you guys will pick it up. But so the second one is, I actually was able to visibly sort of see, quote unquote, evidence of this one, which I kicked myself so badly that I didn't have him send me the picture, so I could have saved it back then. And in years since, I've gone and asked he and his brother, "Hey, do you still have the picture?" And like it was like an old iPhone, and so it'll make sense as I tell it. So I worked at a boarding school in St. Louis going back about 12 years ago, 12, 13 years ago. This is, you know, this is post Boston, Ryan. This
Yeah.
is, I was Boston to Florida, and then Florida for about 5 years, and then back up to St. Louis for 4 years. So this is that stint, like kind of 2008, 2009 through 2012. And so I worked in a boys' dormitory at a private school, which, by the way, felt haunted in itself, but that's not what this is about. So there's this kid, my first year in the dorm. He was a senior, and he graduated after this first year, and then he enlisted in the Marines. So he went to boot camp. His younger brother was still in the dorm and was actually on my hall. And so when his brother would come back and visit campus and say hi, he would kind of come in, this would check in with him. So this would have been like 2010, 2011 probably. And he came back to campus, and he had gone through boot camp. And I think it was a base in North Carolina. I could be wrong, but I feel like it was the South. And so he went through his basic training in the South at some base. And so he came back and he's kind of going around, and I see him, and he's like going up to different groups of people in the dorm, and he's showing them like pictures on his phone. It's kind of like, it's what you do, right? And so he comes up and he's like, "Hey, Travis," he goes, "I got to show you this." I'm like, "All right." And so he's like, he goes, after graduation, he goes, something happened where he like the base was like closed or whatever after graduation. So he went back to sort of the barracks, and he wanted to take pictures so that he could show family and friends like, "Hey, this was my barracks, this was our room, this is where, this is kind of where everything was." And so, but it was empty, right? It was empty. So he was just kind of walking through his own, take a picture of this room, boom, take a picture of the hallway, boom. So he takes all these pictures, and then he's scrolling through them later, right? And he's like, "I just want you," he goes, "scroll through the pictures and just stop if you see anything." And so scrolling through, and then there's a picture of like, so just picture like the hallway of like barracks, right? So it's kind of a long hallway, and it's like a porcelain floor, picture like, a army barracks or whatever, a porcelain floor, and you can kind of see doorways, and you're looking at it, and then all of a sudden, like hair on your back just stands up because it just pops. You see it. So just picture you're looking. It's like, like an iPhone. You're looking, and the shot just goes down the hallway. But as you look at the picture, in the floor, like in the reflection on the floor, is a perfect silhouette of an indigenous woman, like in native garb. Like you can see the shadow of her hair down through like whatever the dress that she's wearing. It is a perfect, and it's like angled, and once you see it, it just pops. And there's no like, "Oh, that could be a tree branch that kind of looks like a face." Like, no,
Ooh.
this is a ghost image. This is a perfect ghost image of an
No.
indigenous woman, like perfectly just reflected in the floor.
Wow.
And you're looking, and of course, all of us are skeptics and we're cynics, and we're all going like, "No, no, 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 it's fake, it's fake. Come on, where'd you get it from? Where'd you get it from? Did you Photoshop it? What was it?"
Uh-huh.
And to this kid's credit, he was a super, super kind of aw shucks honest kid. He wasn't the guy that was going to like try to pull one over on everybody. And,
Yeah.
and and again, his little brother was in my dorm, and like I tried to like pin his little brother. I'm like, "Come on, Alex, man, like, was it fake? Did he like?" He's like, "It's not, Travis." He goes, "It's not fake." And so, and again, the thing that I beat myself up over is that like, why didn't I have him like just send me a copy? Like
Oh,
I
Yeah.
needed that copy for the rest of my life. I needed it. Uh,
I
but
can
he's gotta
understand why
have it.
he doesn't have it though. Why he's like, you know what?
well, years later, again, I reached out through his little brother, or even got him, and I was like, "Hey, man, do you still?" And his response was like, "I'm totally kicking myself. It was, like he lost it on the iPhone when he replaced the iPhone type situation. It was probably pre-cloud, or whatever, and he didn't have it. But he still claims, he goes, that was real. That wasn't a doctored picture."
Do you
Um,
still have access to that boarding school if we want to go back to
We're gonna
uh,
explore that in general, and then we'll go to the barracks after that. We're gonna after doing all
we're
these.
doing a real we're doing
do
a
a
real
tour.
a real
world
tour. Well,
Yeah.
World tour.
my daughter's at the boarding school right now. Do you want me to have her do some recon work? She's a
Oh my.
senior. She's a
Yeah.
senior at the
Can you
boarding
have her
school
go
right now.
there and just do a one of those like blast where you take like 50 pictures in a minute or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yeah.
Go clink, 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 and just send it to us and see what, or send it to you and see what comes up with.
Well,
She's gonna
it's
be
fun.
like, "Dad, what are you doing?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, we just sneak into the boys' dorm, and
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it was, one of the jobs, right? Typically, like on the weekends, because we're called house pops, and so you'd have like there'd be like 5 house pops, and your schedule would rotate like during the weekend, and so you would eventually, a couple nights during the weekend, you would have to be the last one up in the dorm, to shut the office down, and then you'd have to kind of you'd walk the halls once or twice. You'd walk the halls like at 11:30 or 12 o'clock at lights out, and then you would hang out and do it again at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, before you finally went to bed. And so that was the worst because you would be walking, this huge building, right? And like the basement floor, and then you go down these staircases, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and
Ugh.
there was a bathroom that wasn't used anymore that was on the end wing of the dorm. And like there, of course, the story was that like a kid had committed suicide in there, and so like it's a haunted bathroom. And so it was always the room that when you were doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning, you would just kind of like poke your head and go, "Yep, we're all good," and then you would just like just bolt, just run.
Yeah.
All
But
good, all good.
it
Yeah.
was, yeah, that itself was terrifying on its own.
Oh,
Like everyone has to
Yeah.
take turns doing that miserable thing. Like, God,
Yeah.
well, my night to have my adrenaline spiked.
Yes,
oh,
but
that's
yeah,
creepy.
yeah,
That's
but
real.
yeah, that's all I got, guys.
Oh,
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. And I know you think I'm joking about having your daughter take pictures. I'm not. And
He's-
I think the worst thing you could hear if you ask her to do it is like, yeah, I can get in there anytime I want.
I know how to get in, Dad. I'm over there right now.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
You want to hear her say, Dad, I can't get into the
Yeah.
boys' dorm.
Yeah. That's where COVID's working for me, guys. It's like, no,
Oh,
girls aren't allowed over there at all. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, nobody's allowed to go anywhere.
That's
That's
why
awesome.
we spent COVID doing this, and I feel like that's why we keep being like, as soon as this is over, we're going on a tour.
Oh,
Of
we're
all
gonna
the- every
we're
place
done.
someone has mentioned, we're gonna like put a little dot on a
Mhm.
map and be like, all right, we're done with quarantine, we're going.
Yeah.
So,
Dude.
well, I'm going to volunteer, guys. I'm going to volunteer to, because we're moving into, this is a World Cup qualifying year, and so
Yeah. Heck yeah.
come fall, right? Come fall when qualification starts, we'll be going to all of these CONCACAF, like Central American countries like Honduras and Panama and Costa Rica and Mexico.
Oh,
And
man.
so I will be I will be your foreign correspondent
Oh my
to
God,
try to
please.
get I'll get the dirty, try to get the
Yeah.
dirty on all the hauntings in these
Travis, you
little soccer
have
towns.
to.
That would
You
be
have
incredible if you did it on the side while you were there and you were just like, all
Yes.
right, I got
Oh,
one for you, boys.
yeah.
Like,
to. Oh my
I
gosh.
will do my research. I'll talk to the locals, right? As as long as we're able to have contact with them, and
Yeah.
I'll try to get the skinny on some CONCACAF ghost
Yeah.
stories.
All that said, absolutely. Anytime you think of anything, because you're a pleasure to talk to, just reach out and you can come on and talk to us anytime. It's real
yeah,
fun.
that'd be
Real
great.
fun.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, thanks for
Of
doing it.
course. And we'll talk to you soon. I really hope so. And good luck with everything with the soccer team. And I hope you guys go represent us.
Yeah,
real bad.
yeah.
That's
We're in good
huge.
shape.
That's awesome.
We're in good shape. It's a good group of guys, and I think
I
we're going to
love
be in
it.
good shape.
I'll
Yeah,
be watching.
awesome,
Yeah.
guys.
Scare bones for Travis.
You go first on this one.
Yeah. That specifically, that barracks one, like seeing a picture and like a lot of people seeing the picture and everybody seeing a reflection. Like that's so, because pictures, right? Like that's always so scary to me, is like anytime someone's like, take a look at this, and it's like an orb, or it's like just I don't know. I feel like that, I don't know if it's because of the movies or just because that's a an actual science that they try to figure out, like what are the things we see in these images that we don't see when we take the picture. But somebody like that, also somebody that went through basic training, like it strikes me so much as a person who would not dick around about that.
No.
So for them to be like, you should take a look at this, that I'm like, that's up there. I'm going like 7.8 scare bones.
Oh, solid. I agree with you 100%. And also knowing Travis is like, he's no jokes.
Yeah.
He doesn't lie. He's
Just a delightful guy too. I'm like, please
Oh.
go be our correspondent. Go like
No, I would
research
love
these
it.
things and like
He's-
get back to us about what's going on. That's what a dream.
He's the best. He is the best.
That's our man on the ground.
Oh my gosh. And going down into like South America, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah, getting back
some of
to
the
us and
most
we're like, all right, we have
haunted
to leave
places in
tomorrow.
the
He found a spot, we're going.
yeah. That's an 8.4 for me. I really
That's-
enjoy it. The only reason it's not going above 9 is because they're not things that happen directly to him.
Yeah, that's
And-
why mine is where it is too.
Yeah. But I trust him enough that I'm like, yeah, he doesn't screw around. So both those those stories were so good.
Yeah.
I want.
If either of those happened to him, it would be like an 11.
Oh, if either of those happened to
If
him,
he was like,
or
and
if
that
he
was
had the
me, I'd be
picture,
like,
if he had the picture of that, I mean, come on. How do you know? How do you get rid of that picture?
I know.
How do you get rid of that picture?
Are you asking me?
I mean, how can we get rid of this? No, I'm just like, even as a kid, if I had a picture like that, it would be immediately printed.
Yeah.
But hey, it
I
was a
would have gone
different
to an
time.
internet cafe when I was little.
Yeah,
Had
we're
that
talking
printed.
talking 12 years ago. People just didn't consider the cloud as much. So
Yeah.
I guess that's the way it is. But I would still go back to that dormitory with you, and we will
Yeah.
as soon as we can. We will go on tour, and we are going to do this on location at places all over the United States. Hopefully, someday all over Europe. We have to.
And if you're watching this and you can help make that happen, please let us know.
We'll make it happen.
If you hear us saying that and you think, I'd like to help that.
By the way, what did you think of the cocktail?
Oh, you get to describe it, but what did we have? What was tonight's scary stories? What would it brought to you by as far as specialty cocktails goes?
People under the scares. And by the way, it wasn't great.
I very much enjoyed this drink.
Did you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, surprisingly not bad.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, this little cherry flavoring.
Yeah, I don't mind it.